One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Ross Bjork, Ole Miss AD, is our guest today on One Question. We've got some interesting background information to grab from Ross on his fundraising past. Of course, that's very much how his brand was built at Miami and Missouri. Of course, he's part of that Missouri tree of athletic directors and senior leaders around the industry. And then Miami, of course, then went to work for Dan Guerrero at UCLA for about 5 years before a stopover at Western Kentucky as AD, and now in Oxford for the University of Mississippi. And Ross, let's start with when did you ask for your first $1 million gift? Walk me back through that story of the first time you asked for $1 million or more.
You know, that's a trip down memory lane for sure when you ask that type of question. And fortunately, I've been able to ask for a lot of $1 million gifts since. But looking back at your question, Matt, you know, 1999, we were doing a football search at the University of Missouri, and it was me and Laird, Vetch, who's now at Kansas State, Mario Moccia. We were kind of the three-headed monster running fundraising, and we were doing a coaching search, and one of the candidates had a buyout in his contract, and we didn't have any money. There was no reserve account. You know, we were just kind of building the program, you know, really kind of just scraping by, trying to get to that next level, you know, in the Big 12 at that time. And Mike Alden came to us and said, hey, I need $1 million to buy this coach out if he's our guy. Who can we go to? And we just looked at each other like we have no idea. So we had built a relationship with a donor who was very passionate, obviously, about the football program, wanted us to get the right coach and take that next step. And we had dialogue, you know, over those couple of weeks about it. And we simply got on the phone with this individual, and we were shaken. We were nervous about the ask. And so really it was all three of us because we all three had the relationship, and it was over the phone. We have him on speakerphone, and we're laying out, you know, who this person is and what the buyout was. And he just said, what do you need? And we said, we need $1 million. And he said, done. When do you need the money? How do you need the money? And, you know, it was all about a commitment to excellence. And so we all kind of fumbled around like, okay, what do we do next? And how do we get this money and what takes place from here? But it really opened the door, I think, to, transformational giving at Missouri, because it really kind of started a campaign process, you know, to build a basketball arena, expand the facilities. And this donor has been central to that ever since. And, you know, we got off the phone with him and we looked at each other like, wow, what just happened? We've got to follow up on this. We've got to capitalize on this. We ended up not hiring that coach, therefore did not need the $1 million for that particular need. But, of course, we went right back to that donor and said, hey, you offered that $1 million for this. How about we talk to you about this project? Mm-hmm. And, you know, the relationship sort of took off in a transformational way ever since. So I've been fortunate to be around great people, great donors ever since, and been able to be a lot more comfortable asking for that type of money. But that was the first time, and it was quite exciting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I expected a story of I'd been cultivating somebody for quite a long time, and I thought they could get to that point, but I wasn't quite sure. So it was a nerve-wracking experience. It sounds like it was nerve-wracking anyways, but it sounds like it was also spur of the moment to a degree that you had to go find, seven digits. Is there in the fundraising, in the grand scheme of fundraising college athletics, and we know how important it is. And, just in the last couple of days, I've been talking to some people about the William and Mary AD search, which is very much focused on somebody who can raise private funds. But in your experience of, let's stick with this theme of 7-figure plus gifts, when you've done your homework and you understand what's the passion point for the individual and his or her family, how often when you go in for an ask, do you know you're overshooting and you may get, in the long run, you guys may drill down a little further on a number? Or do you feel like most of the time when you go ask for those kinds of money, you know that you're going to get a yes?
Well, I really think it's an evolution, probably of your career. When you're an entry-level, major gift development officer, you're going to get told no a lot. Or you're going to get told, hey, not yet, not quite, come back to me in 6 months, come back to me next year. I've got this investment that's going to pay off. I'll be able to be more flexible. I think, one of the things I learned from Mike Alden and Dan Guerrero in particular was if the AD is in the room, you want to make it a successful meeting. And so I think the setup of your development staff, when the athletic director is in the room, I think you want it to be close to 100%. And it may not be a yes on the spot in that meeting, and there may be another follow-up meeting, but I think if the athletic director is in the room, I think you need to have a great cultivation of that donor by your development staff, also by the athletic director at some level, and you want it to be successful. Because I think, sort of CEO to CEO, that person is probably a CEO on the other side of the table, the donor is. And so I think they want the CEO asking, for a gift like that. And so I think it's somewhat of an evolution. But I think when you get to a certain stage, it better be close to 100% of the time where that person is going to say yes. And typically, I think the philosophy has to be the relationship comes first. If you don't have a meaningful relationship, and back to the first $1 million ask, it was sort of a sense of urgency, but we had been cultivating and getting to know this person, for the couple of years leading up to that. And so if you don't have the relationship dialed in, I mean, you can be the greatest, salesperson, and I can put together the fanciest proposal in the world, and I'm not afraid to ask for, $20 million, but that person looks at you like, you're crazy. I don't even know you. I don't even know what the vision is. I don't even know what you're after here. And so that, to me, that's the art of the ask is not as important as what's the relationship look like? And how have you cultivated that person? How have you made them feel? Have you got to know what makes them tick and really what their passion is for your program? If you do all those things correctly, you will be successful really 100% of the time. And so that's how I look at it is it's sort of an evolution, but it's also built on the relationship, and you better be close to being at 100%.
Once you become an AD and you have this incredibly deep set of responsibilities in addition to raising money, how much more difficult does it become to establish those relationships, or does it?
It's hard because you're twisted in so many different directions, trying to manage, a $100 million budget and, 400 athletes and, 15 head coaches and, obviously staff members, 260 staff members and, campus responsibilities. So, okay, where do you, find time? I think you've got to be intentional about it. When you're the athletic director, it would be easy to come in my office every day, respond to email, make some phone calls, and sort of sit behind my desk. And so I make sure with our development staff that we're intentional about my schedule, about getting me out of the office. I sat down with our chief fundraiser just the other day, and we mapped out, the first 2 months of this calendar year and said, okay, where do we need to be? Who do we need to get in front of? What are the major events coming up where we can be seen and cultivate people and have one-on-one meetings? And so I think you have to be more intentional about it because it's not my day job per se to get up and raise money every day. I've got to make sure that I have a plan. And so I think intentionality is the key word when you're the athletic director. I've got a little checklist in my briefcase of our top 50 donors. I've got their cell numbers plugged into my phone, and if I do have an hour or 2 hours, I'll sit there and maybe drop a few text messages to these people. Hey, thinking about you. Hey, saw this about your business, or drop a phone call and just check in with them. And so I think you've got to just make sure you have a mindset to be proactive and be intentional when you're the athletic director.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.